Hello my friends, welcome to my channel, Lindy's Magpie Reads. If you're new here, I'm Lindy. A special welcome to you. If you like to hear about all kinds of books, you're in the right place. Please stick around. I finished 7 books recently. Actually, one of them was a cookbook, JoyFULL by Radhi Devlukia Shetty, and I did a separate cookbook review, so I won't say anything more about that except that I picked it up for Asian Heritage Month. That's May. I made quite a few recipes in it and I quite liked it. I have been trying to stick to just doing a video on Fridays, Friday Reads, but I had already finished a whole bunch of books, and I know that I'm going to have company on Friday, a booktuber visitor, and I hope that we can do a video together. That's the plan anyway. I'm not guaranteeing that it will be posted on Friday, but watch for that coming soon. So, meanwhile, let me tell you about what I finished lately. First, I've got a couple of audiobooks. Morningside by Téa Obreht was read by Carlotta Brentan, and it's a story that is set sometime in the future on the east coast of the US. It might be 50 years, might be 100 years, but climate change has wreaked some havoc, and this city, it might be New York City, is mostly flooded. And there's a resettlement initiative going on where refugees from other countries are being housed in this city. And the story is about a girl and her mother, and they've come from a country that no longer exists. Now, the author, Téa Obreht, was actually originally born in the former Yugoslavia in Belgrade, but she grew up in Cyprus and Egypt, and now she lives in the US. You might know her for her novel The Tiger's Wife, and another one of hers that I've read since then is called Inland, I think. Anyway, she's got a very surprising kind of writing style, and I'm just going to read you some opening lines from some of the chapters, and that might be enough to intrigue you into picking up this novel. An old familiar dread was waiting for me this morning. Maybe you've never heard of my mother. It was obvious that my mother would have to rethink her raccoon resettlement plan. The building did not begin behaving strangely right away. And another aspect of Morningside is that there are folkloric elements, possibly a villa, a witch who might be in this building where Sylvia and her mother are caretakers. Yeah, that's Morningside. The next audiobook is one by Lydia Millet, We Loved It All. This is nonfiction. I think everything else that Lydia Millet has published in book format has been have been novels. I read the children's Bible, Sweet Lamb of Heaven, and Mermaids in Paradise. So I knew that this book was about animals, extinction, climate change, what humans are doing to the planet. I hadn't realized there was going to be so much memoir in it. It does really work. So, for example, Millet might be talking about the difference between being a hoarder and a collector. And someone who's a collector is someone who has more money. The objects they collect have monetary value, whereas somebody who's a hoarder the objects don't have the same universal value, I guess. And then she goes into talking about pack rats, not people, but the animals. The author lives in Arizona, and there are pack rats around her house. So, yes, so she starts talking about the habits of these animals, and there's a lot about extinctions and what people are doing to preserve animals that are in danger of going extinct. Yeah, all that kind of natural stuff. So I listened to this during Springathon, the nature writing readathon, and even though she talks about a lot of worrisome things, there's also a soothing aspect to it too, just I guess her comforting style of writing. Lydia Millet, by the way, was born in Massachusetts, but as a very young child, her family moved to Canada, so she grew up in Canada and went to the University of Toronto, but she's back to living in the United States now. And the audiobook is read by X.E. Sands. Sands has a particular performance style, and either you like it or not. I find that her voice suits some books better than others, and in this case was just okay. Not my favorite for audio narrator. The book itself, though, is good. So these next three books are all recent Canadian novels. I'm going to start with one by Conor Kerr. Conor Kerr himself is Métis and Ukrainian. He lives in Edmonton. His first novel, Avenue of Champions, was longlisted for the Giller Prize when it came out, and I really enjoyed Prairie Edge. The narrative goes back and forth between two characters who are in their 20s. One is Ezzy, short for Isidore, and the other is Gray. And she is a university graduate, but does not want to go on to further her education. Both of them are Métis. Gray really wants to see bison, herds and herds, thousands of bison on the prairie, as they used to be. There used to be millions. And I'm going to read you from a bit where Gray and Izzy are playing crib, they're playing cards, and this is the conversation. All I want to see is a herd of 1 million bison storming across the prairie. Could you imagine, I asked, how wild something like that would be? Think about them all running. I wonder how the earth would feel, how it would sound when they traveled through. How much do you think it would cost to buy Saskatchewan? Gray stared at me. Like, could the Amazon guy buy Saskatchewan? I don't know, probably. All we have to do is convince him to buy Saskatchewan for us, and then we can get the buffalo herd going. I put down a 10 of spades. 10. Gray shook her head, took another sip, and laid down a 5 of hearts. 15 for 2. Just think about it. 1 million buffalo running back to Saskatoon. Pretty sure that's what the Tragically Hip were singing about. I laid down a 6 to make it 21. The Guess Who, Gray said. She put down a 10 and pegged out 2 for the 31. Huh? It wasn't the Tragically Hip. It was the Guess Who. Whatever, same old shit anyways. So they do come up with a plan how to transport smaller numbers of bison into the river valley in the middle of the city of Edmonton. And Izzy's not sure if he wants in on this plan. He says, I don't know, can you get arrested for something like this? You can get arrested for just existing when you're a Métis man. You know that better than anyone. So what difference does it really make in the long run? It's either do something monumental or just fade into an inevitable jail cell, Gray replied. I really like how this novel gives us a sense of what it's like for an individual, an Indigenous individual who's grown up in government care. And listen to this passage. I felt like most of my life so far had been waiting. When I was a kid, I waited for someone to adopt me. When I turned 12 and realized that was never going to happen, I waited until I aged out of foster families. After that, group homes. Then I went out on my own and I waited for something, anything to happen to give me direction or purpose. Floating through life was fine, but I felt like there must be something missing. What motivated people to try and do something different than the generations before them? I couldn't grasp it. All I knew was survival mode. If there was food, eat it as quick as possible before someone took it from you. If there were drugs or booze, do them all before someone else could. If there was money, spend it now, or else it'd just be whittled away. Survive, survive, survive. No purpose, no direction, nothing. Just waiting for that moment to happen. And another little bit about group homes and people like Ezzy. Last I heard, pretty much everyone I'd ever met in a group home was either in jail or dead. Not many people got out of the cycle. They were just training environments for a life of being institutionalized. The social workers and their assistants were basically just glorified guards. We were expected to join in on the routines that we were given. Kids were constantly smuggling in contraband cigarettes, drugs, booze, and weapons. Everyone was angry. There was no love in places like that. So, two angry Métis young people and a whole bunch of bison. It's a great book. Next, I've got historical fiction, Curiosities by Anne Fleming. This is set way back in the 16th century, maybe the early 17th century as well. And it's told with multiple stories, including a present day portion in the voice of an academic researcher named Anne Fleming. So Anne Fleming is a character in this novel, and she is piecing together a strange story that combines the idea that witches were able to remove a male member, that organ I'm talking about, from men, and also a couple of kids, Thomasina and Joan, who were the only survivors of the plague in their village. Thomasina had a twin brother, Tom, and Thomasina preferred to live his life as Tom. I started reading this a month ago. I went to the book launch at Monroe's Books in downtown Victoria. I listened to Anne Fleming talk about why she tapered down the actual 16th century type English, because it would have made it pretty hard to read, but there's still a lot of that flavor in here. But there is one section where people on a ship have become encased in ice around an island off Hudson's Bay, and Tom is writing a letter to Joan. They're adults now, and it was just so miserable what he was recounting. Their situation is just so desperate. Tom is recording, for example, how all of their teeth are falling out and they're really ill and don't think they're going to survive. And so I'm going to say that this book is my participation in the BookTube event Misery May that Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot and Gemma of Gemma Books have been doing for the past couple of years. Read Something Miserable. Oh. It got so that when I was in that section, I didn't want to pick up the book because it was just so tragic. And then I realized, hey, I'm in control of how I read this book. It's okay to skim. So I did want to find out what happened to that ship and the crew that was on it, but I did not read every single word in that section. But I want to give you a flavor, so here's a little bit. Tom is writing to Joan. I want to write you every minute, but my hand likes not the pen. I take it up and there it sits. I am in a fog, a dream. Old Nut is in it, and you, and Mary Dance, and you, and Ned Hazelwood, and you, and my father, and you, Lady Margaret, and you. Someone calls me, I wake. There is the pen in my hand. I put it down, I go to them. And a little bit more for flavor. So this is a man recounting a story that he heard in a pub. There I went, and there I found him, a slender man, shrunken with age, rheumy-eyed but clear of tongue. I had expected a rogue, but found something closer to a gentleman. He was clean in his person and quick in his wit. I could have called him sober had he not spent all day drinking. I never saw the drink affect him, nay, not so much as to make him unsteady as he stood to piss, or to cause his tongue to slur or slip. In the contemporary part, Anne receives a package with some very old letters in it, and I ran upstairs shouting to my partner, "Oh my God, you won't believe this." "Sorry, something's going on here," she said to the people on her video conference call, and muted her mic. "What is it?" she said. "Sorry, forgot you were on a call. Tell you later. I just got something great in the mail. Like, super great." So, back and forth in time and with some very curious, interesting characters. Curiosities by Anne Fleming. Editing Lindy here to say there was something very special about Anne Fleming's book launch that I forgot to say, and that is she started out playing the lute along with her lute instructor, and she passed out song lyrics for something from, I think it was the 16th century, written by Thomas Campion, and so we all had this little sing-along to start with and got in the spirit, and it was great fun. And she also wrote a lovely inscription in my copy of Curiosities. When I told her my name was Lindy, she asked if I was the person who had a book blog and wrote about books. It had been years since I wrote about her collection of short stories, Gay Dwarves of America, but she still remembered that, so I was delighted. And next up is a novel in graphic format, A Guest in the House. We have the author Emily Carroll on the cover, but I learned that they go by E.M. Carroll now and use they, them pronouns. So E.M. Carroll is a Canadian cartoonist who lives in Ontario and who writes spooky kinds of stories, often tied to fairy tale. And this one is a contemporary setting about a woman named Abby who is a teller at a grocery store, and she is the second wife of a man with a daughter who recently moved to town. He's a dentist, and she doesn't know much about his first wife, Sheila, but Sheila's ghost seems to be haunting them. And have a look at Carroll's art. A lot of it is black and white until Abby starts to dream, or perhaps see the ghost of Sheila. A spooky, shivery kind of story that keep you feeling kind of wrong-footed, and it's got a powerful, ambiguous ending that I thought was spectacular. And last up is another one in comics format, a graphic memoir by the cartoonist Maurice Vellekoop. It's called I'm So Glad We Had This Time Together. Yes, I can sing that Carol Burnett piece. Vellekoop grew up in a Christian Reformed church, very Dutch family. The opening scene, he's 5 years old, and he and his mom are going to downtown Toronto. It's just a special trip. He and his mom, he's got older brothers and an older sister, but you can tell already that he's a little gay boy, and there are some older boys on the street that are calling him a sissy and a mama's boy, and he asks his mom, what are they saying? Why are they calling me that? And she tells him, just ignore them. But as he gets older, it's very clear that he is attracted to boys, and he's worried that he's going to hurt his mother if he comes out. This book, it's my favorite of all of them that I've been telling you about so far. So well told, and it's a fat one. He's got a lot to say. He's so tied up with self-hatred. He finally does go to therapy, but it takes several therapists before he finds someone who's compatible, and I think that makes this a really good book for Mental Health May, that Kim of Middle of the Book March and Maya of Marilyn Maya Mendoza, two lovely booktube channels, and their project Mental Health May to bring awareness to the topic. One of the things that Vellekoop uses to show his inner dialogue is a physical little sort of good and bad angels on his shoulders, and I love the way that as he gets older, he shows these little characters getting older as well, and eventually coming into his own. This book is definitely for adults, not younger readers, because there are some very explicit sex scenes in it, so be aware of that, and be aware that it is really, really good. I loved it. And that is all I've got for you today. So thank you, you wonderful people. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate hearing from you, so please say hello in the comments down below, and watch for soon another video on this channel with a special guest. It's Marilyn Maya Mendoza, who's going to be here in Victoria, so we get to meet in person for the first time. Really looking forward to that, and I hope you are too. See you all soon. Bye for now.